This is it. Today marks the first formal workout for pitchers and catchers in Bradenton, Florida. And you know what? It's going to mark a first, maybe, for something else. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or hockey. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins that I hope you'll also check out. Day one. This is it. Pirate City. Pitchers, catchers, and from what I'm told, more than a few position players as well. And a completely new attitude? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Because that emanates always, in any setting, from your field manager. And Derek Shelton has had a certain type of personality that he has applied toward his first 3 years of running this ball club. And it's all been about patience and development and not flipping out. And every game isn't the end of the world. And we're more interested in progress than we are in outcomes and all this other stuff. But guess what? You don't get to go through a whole winter of talking about how winning is the thing now. We're ready to go. We're pushing it. We're at the stage where we feel it's right to add to the young players that we've already got. You can't say all of those things and then as soon as everybody's around or the games start getting closer, start saying the same old things. So it's going to not likely be, it's going to have to be a different Shelton that takes on this particular task. And you know, for all those times over his first 3 years where situations have arisen where he would say this or that or do this or that and it would drive you a little bit nuts because you'd say, you know, Jim Leland would have flipped a food table or Lloyd McClendon would have uprooted first base. And I would always respond every time, I have no idea what kind of manager he'll be when it comes down to just plain old winning and losing. Well, we saw lots of the losing, but we also saw it get kind of discarded. And again, you can't do that now. Just can't. And anytime Shelton would screw up, specifically, anytime he would screw up, the outcry would be, he's not going to be the manager when this team is ready to ... Well, guess what? This is ... It's not takeoff. It's not contention necessarily, to say the least. You don't come off 101 and 100 losses and then all of a sudden find yourself exploding into the playoffs. However, it's now their stated stance that they're about to take all of this a lot more seriously from the standpoint of each individual game. And how does that look in Shelton land? I have no idea because we haven't seen it. Little glimpses here or there. And I could bring up Dodger Stadium and Shelton leaving David Bednar in for 50 pitches, and I could do that for the millionth time. I'm going to give you something else instead. This was a couple years ago. This was in 2021. Do you remember how the team had that unbelievably long stretch of not having swept anybody, not even in a 2-game set? And there was a weekend at PNC Park where they were facing the Mets. Don't ask me for dates. I'm doing all this off the top of my head, like always. And they got into a Sunday game where they really should have won the third one. And the crowd was one of those half and half crowds that taste great, less filling crowds that yell over top of each other, but it makes for a really fun atmosphere. So PNC Park was hopping. And to an extent, hopping over the potential for a sweep. The diehards, the season ticket holders who come out all the time, had their brooms and stuff like that. This was really cool. And they blew it. The Pirates blew it. And I don't even remember how. What I do remember is going into that press conference area and seeing Shelton look mad. And I was positive I'd never seen this before. Positive. And I actually brought it up with him. Not that day, a couple days later. Like, you look like you were pretty mad. No, he said, no, I wasn't. No, Now, I mean, it's just, you want to have those moments and you want to, pull one out for the crowd or whatever, but that's just all part of the process. All part of the process. He couldn't even admit that he was mad about a really, really difficult in the moment loss. That probably needs to change. That doesn't mean you go beating up on your younger players or you start becoming an ogre or whatever. I'm sure that a lot of the things that the Pirates brass valued in Shelton when they hired him was that they felt he was the kind of guy who could get them through a couple of really, really, really challenging seasons. And that he wouldn't blow his top. And he didn't. Not once. That was as close as he came. I'm not talking about umpires or whatever. I'm talking about a post-game press conference. Not one time. Not at home. Not on the road. Nothing. And I think that there might be some merit to, not staging this like it's pro wrestling or whatever, but if he gets to have a really, really tough loss where, let's say, his team boots the ball around or doesn't show enough effort, and he blows his top at some point, even in April, I think that'll send some kind of message. Again, not to stage it, not to whatever, but just to not hold back, not to feel like he needs to rein it in. I actually would welcome seeing that. I really would. And the way he manages, that's also got to change, although that's a little more obvious. He's going to have to make harder calls than he has in the past related to starting pitchers and to bullpen. Instead of saying, man, we sure would like to see another inning and a third out of this kid just to see what he's got or how he handles this situation. Or that. No, win the game. That doesn't mean you play your starters or your exact same lineup for 162 games the way some people seem to complain all the time. That doesn't happen anywhere anymore. There's load management in every sport for every team. But what he can do is say, hey, we got a 1-run lead here in the 7th, and I'm about to show these other guys my 3 best arms. Even though a couple of them might be a little bit tired, I'll figure it out later in the week. Win the game. Win the game that's right in front of you. And when you don't win the game, let everybody know that it's not okay to not win the game. When we come back, J1Q. This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at North Shore Tavern, that's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. North Shore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park. Today's J1Q comes in response to the question that I posed to pretty much everybody, but also, at least metaphorically, to the Pirates themselves, and that is, are you excited? Are they excited? And who all needs to get excited for that excitement to translate into something a lot more tangible? And Drew writes, am I excited? Well, the best I can say is that 1, I'm a Pirates fan, and 2, the summer means that my favorite sport, hockey, is over. So I'm willing to be in a mindset of looking forward to the idea of going to PNC a few times because they might be, possibly, maybe, actually trying to do something this coming year. That's about all I can muster. Hovering over the Pirates always is the fact that they are not a serious, actual sports franchise that tries to win, etc. The Penguins and Steelers are legitimate franchises, so the Pirates have work to do. They do have work to do. They do have work to do, Drew. And part of that work, unwittingly and indirectly, is to get you back. You took the time to send that to the guy who blabs every day on a show called Daily Shot of Pirates. You couldn't convince me in a million years after that single act that you aren't invested in the process. You are. You are. You care about the franchise. You want to see them do well. And they have to do well. It's been a while. It's been a while. No playoffs since 2015. No division titles since 1992. No World Series since 1979. That's a while. And for the people who've been following them for a long time, it takes a lot of, I was about to say delusion. It takes a lot of persistence to stick with it. They change management teams. They raise your hope level a little bit. O'Neal Cruz comes along. You see him doing some freaky things, raises your hope a little bit. Brian Reynolds in that situation has you going up and down and sideways, and we'll see where all of that goes this spring. Andrew McCutchen comes back, and you remember the things that were good, and you know that you're now going to actually be able to watch one of the things that was good through the summer, and it can mess with your emotions. Your time is as valuable as your emotion, and you have to put time into watching baseball. You know, there's 162 of these things. There's time. It's whatever it is, 3 hours a night, depending on how many of those you plan to catch. That's a lot of oomph that you're putting into this process. Just you, Drew, as a fan. Are they a serious sports franchise? I've asked the same question. I'll continue to ask it. I want to see the people who are running this team do so in a way that it's clear beyond even the most radical misinterpretation that the priority is to win a 6th World Series championship. Is that asking a lot? It depends. I mean, the championship itself is asking a lot. Baseball's system is inherently unfair. But the effort, the mindset, no, that's not asking a lot. You have to at least be trying, or you need to get out of the business and let others try. That's the way I look at this. And I think 2023, even though it's not going to result in ending any of those various streaks I just mentioned, it could make significant progress in this capacity alone. And that, I believe, especially if they sign Reynolds. I appreciate the question. Had to get that in. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. We'll do another one of these tomorrow.